Well, frankly, absolutely nothing like what my previous guest or what my colleague from Russia has just said. Ukrainians have not been attacking anything that comes even close to Russian infrastructure when it comes. And by the way, it's not Russian infrastructure; it happens to be Ukrainian infrastructure because the Russians have invaded Ukraine, and therefore anything that is in the Donbass obviously is within Ukraine, and Ukrainians are quite successfully counterattacking against the Russian army. The statement about the fact that supposedly the SBU or any other government buildings were attacked or even targeted, I'll point out that over the last 2 days, we've had over 50 residential apartment blocks that have been damaged or destroyed by Russian missiles, and only 2 administrative buildings. In other words, if the Russians were aiming for administrative buildings, they failed dramatically. We've had children's playgrounds bombed. We've had residential buildings bombed. We've had universities and schools and kindergartens bombed. At the end of the day, to state that this is a retaliation for the Crimean Bridge, well, frankly, there has been absolutely no evidence of the fact that the Ukrainians are responsible for the Crimean Bridge disaster. I welcome the fact that the Russians have come to this conclusion within literally 24 hours of the disaster happening, but it certainly looks like the Russians, having planned a massive rocket attack on Ukraine for the last 2 weeks, needed some sort of a pretext to attack it, and therefore basically attack their own bridge.
All right, Mychailo. Mark, what's your response to that?
I mean, this really sad propaganda, which I am quite sure that the viewers of CGTN are far too intelligent to buy. We've heard this repeatedly over the last 8 years. The people of East Ukraine, where I have family, have been bombing themselves for the last 8 years. Russian forces in the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant have been bombing themselves in an attempt to blow themselves up in a nuclear explosion. The Russian Nord Stream pipelines, the Russians blew up their own $30 billion pipeline. Now the sick denialist propaganda from this regime apologist would have us believe that the Russians blew up their own bridge, when the Ukrainska Pravda newspaper itself in Kyiv recounted regime officials saying that the SBU was behind this terrorist attack.